Hey, it's Friday. I'm back again, y'all. Fitting these lives in on a Friday because I don't have too much time during the week. So, making time for y'all. Making time to do what I love. Alright, so it is 12 and I am going to immediately jump right in here. Welcome to my page. I'm Anjanika Brooks. And today I'm going to be continuing my series that I started last week called From Unmothered to Empowered. And it's just basically going to deal with the benefits that I see that come from healing. So, a little bit about me before I jump into the topic today. So I am a daughter who's healing. I feel like my mother had narcissistic traits growing up. And as this is a page for daughters of toxic mothers, narcissistic mothers, even absent mothers, or those that weren't emotionally available to us when we were growing up, since that's what this page is, I'm coming to you just using my own experience as someone in that situation. So, so growing up, my mom, I felt like had a lot of her own baggage to deal with, and she was really young, and so she really wasn't the best mother to me. Now, granted, I had other things that I needed, and my grandmother was there. I had plenty of aunts there. I still wanted my mother, and so by not having that connection with her, the relationship that I needed and wanted, I think some things went missing, and it played out in our relationship. When I was in my 20s, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so eventually we lost her to breast cancer. And it was really hard for me. And so it's always hard when you lose someone, but I was going through so much more pain. I just didn't understand why I wasn't getting through it. I wasn't getting over it, before I really understood grief. And I didn't know why I was spinning my wheels. And so I do know that there was a call on my heart to write a book. And I couldn't get the book out. And I couldn't get the book out because, one, I wasn't dealing with the feelings. I wasn't dealing with the emotions and what had happened. And two, I didn't really fully know all the lessons so that I could present them back to you, teach anybody else, how to get through it, which is what I'm here for right now. So anyway, the book did come out. It came out last year. I was able to work with a writing coach. The Jasmine Womack is my writing coach. And I encourage anybody that wants to write a book to look her up on Instagram, Facebook. She also has a website, Phenomenal Coach. She knows her stuff, and she can help just to tap into whatever you're feeling, thinking, wanting to write about, and pull it out. And so the book is here. And it's called Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. And so I talk about it a lot on the page. But today I wanted to talk about feeling specifically because I think that that is key. So when you heal, it's all about emotions. And I think for me, using myself as an example because, I know myself. But for me, I couldn't get through the grieving process. I couldn't even tap into healing because I was afraid. I was fearful at dealing with the feelings and what that meant. I was fearful with, what was going to come up. I was fearful with what might be found out, about me, things that I had done, things about my family, things about my mother. And I just didn't want to deal with any of it. And so because of it, there was all I would call it was pain. There was just this pain, and it just felt like a hole in my chest, and I couldn't get through. I couldn't even write, and writing is one of the things that I love. And so when I really decided, okay, this is enough. I'm not living my life to the fullest. I'm not really enjoying myself right now because I'm still processing my mother's death, and I don't know what's wrong. So when I finally began to write, and I was about halfway through the book, what I thought the book was going to be, and I was stuck. When I started to analyze what was going on, I began to realize that I wasn't dealing with the loss of my mom, and not the loss of her like when she passed, but the loss in our relationship. So as I dug deeper into that, I began to learn a lot more about myself. I learned about my own triggers, like things that had happened when I was growing up. I learned about how I behave emotionally. What I expect from people when it comes to, like when I meet them and how I expect them to treat me, to what I'm willing to give back. So I just began to unpack all of that when I started looking at what am I really feeling here, instead of trying to hide, instead of trying to run. And so that's why I'm on the page today live, to encourage you to do the same thing. And I think that is what healing is all about. It's a way to help us get to know ourselves. It is a way to tap into who we really are. And it takes bravery. It takes a lot of courage to begin to look at yourself and to begin to process your feelings. And so, like I said, for me, it was the fear of what was going to come out and what was going to be seen, what was going to be exposed. And so I'm just here to encourage you, because I know that you're probably scared to talk about the feelings. I know that you're probably scared to look back at some of the things that have happened. But I encourage you to try it and take your time doing it, because I think that is beneficial. It can move you from literally being stuck, being in pain, to moving through life in a more purposeful manner, moving through life in a more joyful manner, and just really being aware at all of the opportunities and things around you. I think that that's what happens when you are able to tap into your true feelings and begin to access the healing that's there. So like I was saying, for me, there were feelings that I was running from. And so one of the things that I think can help is, and I've seen therapists and psychologists use it, is I don't have it with me, but it's an image, and it's like a color wheel. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a circular wheel, and it has the wheel is sliced into smaller circles, and then it has like little pie slices, and each pie slice around that circle has a different emotion on it, a different feeling. And as it radiates out, there are even more feelings. So, I don't know, maybe there are hundreds of feelings on that color wheel. But I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing because sometimes when you are feeling something, you don't even know exactly what it is. You're not even aware, of where that feeling is coming from. You might not even be identifying it right. And so, like, I'll give you an example. So in my case, yes, I was feeling the loss because my mother and I didn't have the relationship that I wanted from her. I wanted us to be really close, and she had a problem with being really close to me, because, some things having to do with my father, some things that, she couldn't get through. And so that's what I wanted. And so, but I distinctly remember a time when I was probably 16, 17, when I hated her. I literally could not stand that woman because of some of the things, like when your hormones are changing as a teenager, you're going through all this stuff in school and with friends and, boyfriends and all whatever. And she didn't seem like she really cared and she was in tune. And when she did talk to me, I felt like she was more criticizing or expecting me to be perfect. And so there was a point I just hated her. And those were things I didn't want to talk about. Here I am grieving for my mother. I don't want to go back to when I was in high school and I couldn't stand her. And I distinctly remember writing it in one of my journals. So it was things like that, hate, disappointment. Disappointment is a feeling. But when we're sitting here and we don't know how to talk about it or tap into what is really going on, we may just call it all pain. We may call it all hurt. We may call it something, and that's not really what it is. Or if anything, is that and some more. That and then some. And we really have to be honest about that. Because if we're not honest, it stays inside. it stays in there. And I've probably said this before, but I heard someone say it. I think it was a lady on a hair video I was watching, because I love hair videos. And so she was saying, you release it, you let the stuff out and you share it, because there's more room outside than there is in here for you to hold it in. And so that's what I needed to do. I needed to release it. And so with doing that, it just took me all the way back. Not all of my feelings that I needed to process were things that my mother did to me or things that happened when I was growing up. But it still helped me identify, like, how do I behave emotionally? So it's simple, when someone doesn't do what you expect them to do, and they've told you they're going to do something, that's disappointment for me. And so it doesn't matter if that's my mother, if that's my father, my grandma, it doesn't matter who that is. I'm going to feel a sense of disappointment. And so I had to understand which things are huge for me. And so just in beginning to write the book and trying to come out of that stuck place, I was able to start processing through, what was I really feeling? What was really going on before she passed away? What is it that I don't want to talk about, that I'm not admitting? And so I had to ask myself that. And it took some journaling. It took talking. So that brings me to the next point I want to make about feelings. So how do you begin to process the feelings? When you're ready to deal with them and you know that healing is the way to go, you're ready, you know it's good for you, how do you begin processing the feelings? So I would suggest, if you do have a family member, a friend that is good at listening, not necessarily someone that's going to tell you what to do, that's going to say, girl, you should try this, or you need to get over it, or whatever. Why are you still thinking about that? That's not what I mean. I mean someone that's really going to listen to you. Listen and hold the judgment back. Because there's nothing wrong with constructive criticism, but it's really hard to heal when you have somebody, in your ear telling you, well, you should have done this, or if it were me, this is what would happen, when they really don't know. So if you can find someone that will listen, I would say that is a good thing. And let's be honest, it's hard to find people that'll listen all the time. And sometimes people don't want to be brought down by our problems, they don't have time. They're trying to live their best life. They don't have time for it. And so I would say, if in that case, yes, journaling. I always recommend journaling. I am a writer, meaning I love to write. Not meaning like I'm well-known, famous, all of that. I actually edit in my 9 to 5. That's what I do. And my background is engineering, so that's a whole totally different story. But so I do technical writing and editing. But I'm a writer because I love to write in my journal. I love to get a journal and just pour out my heart and say whatever I want to say, however I want to say it. Because that, to me, is just being raw. And so I really do recommend journaling, or even a drawing journal where you can doodle, and you don't necessarily have to write sentences. You might just you might draw a heart and it's broken, and you put a couple words around that. But I really recommend any kind of expression, way you can express yourself, whether it's working with your hands, it's something that you like to do that feels therapeutic. Those things can help you tap into what you're really feeling. And then the third thing I would recommend is a good therapist. Good therapist. Not all therapists are created equally. We know this. And sometimes it takes, no offense, there's different types of therapists for everybody. And sometimes it takes looking around, or, you might do that consultation and you get a few sessions in with the therapist and you realize, okay, we're not a good fit. That's fine. You're not going to find a fit unless you get started. And so, and everybody is not going to click with you, and everybody's not going to work for you. And I strangely enough, I have a therapist that I would not have necessarily said, okay, this is who I think is going to be a therapist. This is what I think is most important to me. But once I sat in the chair and I began talking, I knew that was my therapist. And so you just kind of have to feel it out. But I think a therapist is key, because they will listen. That is their job. That is what they want, for you to to get better, for you to be well, for you to work through whatever is holding you back, holding you down, whatever's going on. That's what a good therapist wants, is to help you get through it. No, they're not like a healer, and they're not going to fix you, but they can help you. And I just love it for the fact that yes, I'm paying, and she is worth every penny, and she has the time for me. She makes the time for me. I get on the schedule and I sit on the couch, or in some of these COVID times, I see her, virtually. But she makes the time for me, and I make the time for myself. I say that my healing is important when I set my therapy appointment. I say that I deserve to feel better. I deserve to talk about what's on my mind. And so the therapist has been the one amazing part that I would have just never guessed would have turned out that way for me, because I did not grow up with that in my background. Crazy people went to the therapist. You don't go unless there's something wrong with you. Your mind is run off and it can't come back. And that is not the case. I think therapy is just an amazing part of self-care. And so it's not for everybody, but for me, I'm able to go and not feel like, oh, I'm losing my mind. And in fact, one of the times that I had to see the therapist was in dealing with some depression that I was going through. I was going through depression because my child was going through depression, and I wasn't able to. I felt like, as a mom, I want to do everything to help, and I wasn't able to pull her out, and I ended up becoming depressed because it just was so painful for me. And so I literally went to the therapist, and I couldn't even say words. Like, all I could do is just cry, just let the tears flow, because I didn't even know what I was feeling and what I was dealing with. And a therapist helped me to talk about what types of emotions were in there, and like give them a name, give them an image, so that I could see when I needed to move them out of my way. Like I could imagine moving whatever the feeling or the problem was out of my way. And so she was just so helpful with that. So I will probably forever sing the praises of therapy, because it's just an amazing way to help you process your feelings. And so the final thing I will say on the topic, this is not a long live today, but the final thing I'll say on the topic is I think that to really become more emotionally aware of yourself and to, be emotionally healthy, we need to check in. Like your feelings, how you felt about something when it first happened, or when you first began to deal with it, might not be the same way that you feel later. So like at one point, when I was dealing with everything with my mother, I realized that I was holding a lot of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness for her, unforgiveness for my father for not being there, unforgiveness for myself for things I went through when, I was trying to survive and raise myself and get through whatever it was. So I realized I wasn't forgiving. And I didn't think that anybody deserved forgiveness, including me. I felt like, well, you messed some things up here. And like I said, at one point I actually could not stand my mother. So, and maybe my daddy too. We were just being honest, so I had to get to a point where the feelings began to change. And so that's what happens. I think when you actually check back in with yourself and see where you are, your feelings could have changed from when an event, an incident, whatever it is, first started. You could be what we call healing. You could be getting better. You could be getting closer to your true self, because you are doing the brave thing, doing the scary thing, but you're having a moment where you are looking it in the face and saying, I'm ready to deal. Get at me. Whatever it is, I'm tired of being stuck, and I'm ready to deal with it so that I can move on, and so that I can start living my best life, so that I can tap into all of the things that are due me, all of the things that I'm supposed to have, and in doing that, putting out all the good things that I'm supposed to give. So checking in is something that you can put yourself on a schedule to do. And like I said, even when I'm feeling good, I actually still go to my therapist. I go to her because I've learned that I don't need to go too long without seeing her. So I go like kind of like maintenance, so that I can check in, and she'll help me. She's really good about that, like going back around. Okay, what's going on here? What's going on there? How did you do the homework that I told you to do? Did you? How did that go? Where are you with this? And it's really helpful to have that person in your corner. And then at the same time, I process through my journals. I don't set myself on a schedule because I'm like constantly writing. I'm at the doctor's office. I'm a person that I must have a notebook and a pen in every bag that I have. I literally have my purses, my bags set up like they all got a notebook, like a little flip notebook and a pen, because I'm not gonna be without it. And I have my phone and I can type notes and do all that, but I like to physically write. Because one, it helps me like process. It gets it out of my head, and something about the action of the limbs and all of that. Your girl I work with my hands, so I like to be able to pick up my pen and put it to paper. And that's just the way that I am. So I don't do it on a schedule, but I think you can journal on a schedule. I think especially getting up in the mornings, and when you are setting your intentions for the day, and saying something positive and sweet and good to yourself. And maybe for some of us, we're exercising, whatever time we do that, whether that's morning, whether that's midday, whether that's night. A routine will help you. It will definitely help you to know, like, how am I feeling now about, this thing that happened? How am I feeling now about not having my mom? And I love her. I love her. And so that's something that processing feelings helps you get to, because it definitely wasn't fun growing up in that house and not having her the way that I wanted to. And knowing that I was a child and children see things differently, I still was able to understand what a mom should be. Not saying she had to be perfect, never, never. But I understood how she should have been to me, and I could also see from my grandma and how she was different, how she was very loving, disciplinarian, but she was very loving. And I could see my mom wouldn't even discipline us sometimes, so I could see the difference. And so to come from that and to go through, teenage years and not really liking how our relationship was, and then to get to the point where I was grieving so much from losing her, and now to the joy of being able to say how much I love my mother. Some of the few good times we had, I still cling on to that. Her smile. So I just think that is what can happen. I am not telling you that you are going to be just like me and I have all the answers, and that you are going to go from being upset and unforgiving to you now are this wonderful person and everybody is your friend. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there is power. There is power when you tap into your own feelings, when you begin to understand yourself, when you start to know your triggers, when you start to know what takes you down, what makes you feel low, what brings you up, so that you have control over yourself. So that is what I'm talking about today. That is what this live is about. So there will be more of this coming. Like I said, it's a series that I'm doing called From Unmothered to Empowered. And so I have, I believe it's about 9 different things that I'm covering. And last week I talked about knowing your worth. And so I don't know, I'm not going to promise that I'm going to be on here every Friday, because my schedule could change, just with work mostly. But I think that I like Fridays, and so I'll probably come on here. And so thank you guys for being with me today. And if you are, it looks like everybody will be catching the replay today, which is perfectly fine. But if you are catching this replay, and you have some questions, you can drop them in the, give me a comment, or you can DM me. You can go to my website. There are so many ways to contact me if you want to. I still am offering free consultations if you want to talk about what it feels like being unmothered, not having all the essentials and the things that you needed from your mom when you were growing up, and now seeing it play out in your life. If you want to talk about that, I do have some time, and you can schedule it on my website, or you can just DM me and we can set up some time to talk about what some of your pain points are, some of your concerns are. And so eventually I will be setting up a course that I hope will help people that want to go deeper into healing. People that are like me, they're a daughter and they didn't have the relationship that they wanted with their mother, and now they're ready to heal. So that's the talk today, guys. I am so happy that I got to join you, and I hope that I will see you again soon. Bye.